The Dark Angel's first mission on Carrick 7 ended in disaster. The Tyranids overran the Imperial position, annihilating squads Eregius and Deveros alongside the garrison's Sisters of Battle. A grievous blow to the planet's defenders. Should Carrick 7 have any hope of survival, the Dark Angels would need to revise their tactics against such a tenacious and deadly foe.
Hello and welcome to Minisodes. It's back to the Galactic East for the second installment of our narrative campaign set during the First Tyrannic War. Let's head to the mission briefing.
Now that we have commended the souls of our fallen brothers to the Emperor, it is time for vengeance. We have retrieved information on the various warrior beasts that make up the Tyranid swarms, and have thus far identified two variants that should be prioritized for elimination and study. The Hive Tyrant appears to be an enhanced leadership strain of the Tyranid warrior, armed with deadly bioweaponry, a powerful synaptic connection to its lesser kin, and an insidious ability to project horror and despair upon its enemies. The Zoanthrope is a highly specialized creature. Although physically weak, it has evolved to harness lethal warp energies and is capable of destroying fortified emplacements and armored units. Commander, we have identified a force of Tyranids some distance from the primary swarm. Act quickly, deploy your forces, kill and retrieve these heinous bioforms so that we may learn more of the foe we face. Look to your war gear and serve the Emperor's will.
James would be commanding the Dark Angel's mechanized hunting party. Tactical Squad Zadil. 3 Space Marines armed with bolt guns, 1 Space Marine armed with a flamer, and a veteran sergeant armed with a bolt pistol, chainsword, and Auspex war gear card. Tactical Squad Amadis. 3 Space Marines armed with bolt guns, 1 Space Marine armed with a melter gun, and a veteran sergeant armed with a bolt gun and power sword. Devastator Squad Barakil. 2 Space Marines armed with bolt guns, 2 Space Marines armed with missile launchers, a veteran sergeant armed with a bolt gun and chainsword, and all are equipped with frag and crack grenades. Rhino Iron Steed, armed with twin-linked bolters. Landraider Smiter, armed with 2 sponson twin-linked las cannons and a twin-linked heavy bolter. It is fitted out with the ablative armor vehicle card. The Tyranids are led by a Hive Tyrant, equipped with a bone sword, flash whip, and venom cannon. Yes, I know it's modelled with a barbed strangler. It has evolved a hardened carapace and a warp field. It is accompanied by the psychic might of 2 Zoanthropes, protected by warp fields. 3 broods of Tyranid warriors protect these powerful individuals. A brood of 3 with death spitters, and 2 more broods of 3 armed with deadly bone swords. The Tyranids have a strategy rating of 1, so I deployed my forces first and drew the Terrorize mission card, scoring victory points for breaking enemy units and slaying characters. No easy task against Space Marines. I deployed my first brood of bone sword wielding warriors in the center behind some ruins. Then positioned the brood with death spitters on my left flank. Whilst on my right flank, the third brood menaced the side of the wrecked hab block. Now, with suitable protection in place, I deployed a Zoanthrope in the center and another on the right flank. Despite being monstrous creatures, the Tyranid Codex permits all of these units to start hidden. Finally, the alien majesty of the Hive Tyrant arrived in the midst of his warrior broods. For this scenario, we agreed that so long as the Hive Tyrant was alive, it could summon 2d6 termagants from turn 2 onwards, representing the Hive Mind's response to the attacking Dark Angels. James had a special mission card that I've created for this very scenario, Enemy Unknown, and was tasked with slaying Tyranid individuals, which then turn into objectives, scoring 1 victory point for each slain Tyranid individual, plus 3 victory points for each objective held at the end of the game. James deployed Devastator Squad Barrakiel on his left, ready to take up elevated firing positions in a nearby ruin. The mighty Landraider Smiter, carrying Squad Amadis, deployed in the center. On James's right flank, Iron Steed took up its position, ready to deploy Squad Zadeel at a moment's notice. With both forces deployed, we rolled for first turn, which James won, and with a White Dwarf handshake, battle commenced. Devastator Squad Barrakiel scrambled up and into the ruin, deploying its missile launchers ready for the next turn's shooting. Iron Steed rumbled forwards, disgorging Squad Zadeel into an abandoned bunker. Sergeant Zadeel's Auspex chimed as large bioforms were detected skulking nearby. Iron Steed completed its move, covering the ground ahead with its twin bolter. Acknowledging Zadeel's transmission, the Smiter's crew trained its guns on the ruins ahead and prepared to engage targets. In the Psychic phase, the Hive Tyrant cast the Horror, but no Dark Angels were in range to experience the Horror. With the meat things in range, I sprang my trap, sending the Death Spitter brood towards Zadeel's bunker, whilst the Bone Sword wielders in the center darted forwards, covering their approach with the rocky side of a hill. My Zoanthrope crept into the ruin and looked out, eager to destroy. As my last brood of warriors thundered towards James's Devastators, whilst my second Zoanthrope brought the Devastators into view. Finally, the Hive Tyrant brought up the rear, its hardened carapace crackling with eldritch energy. In my shooting phase, the Death Spitters unleashed acid gobbets with unerring accuracy at Zadeel's squad, reducing the Marine armed with the Flamer to a puddle of hissing foam. Mercifully, the acid splash failed to harm the rest of the squad. In the Psychic phase, I directed my Zoanthrope's Warp Blast at James's Devastators. I rolled a 1, and the Psychic conflagration scattered harmlessly in front of the Marines. A lucky escape for Squad Barrakiel. With no more force cards in my hand, that was the end of the Tyranid turn. Having not fired a shot in his first turn, James was ready to do some damage to my cosmic horrors. But first, he dispersed 2 of his brother Devastator Marines to mitigate carnage from template weapons. Very wise. With movement over, Iron Steed opened fire on the Death Spitters, hitting but failing to wound. Bellowing vengeance for their dissolving brother, Squad Zadeel poured bolter fire into the warriors, dealing 3 wounds, killing 1, and grievously wounding a second. James chose to split the Landraider's fire between the warriors behind the rocks and the Zoanthrope in the ruins. Both the Las Cannon and the Heavy Bolter missed, showering debris over the unharmed warriors. But the gunnery of the second Las Cannon battery struck home, overwhelming the Zoanthrope's warp field and dealing 15 damage. The smouldering cranium of the felled beast now became an Imperial objective marker for the Dark Angels to secure. Seeing the second Zoanthrope in the open, Devastator Squad Barrakiel fired their missile launchers, scoring a hit, but the effort of penetrating the warp field prevented the crack missile from wounding the beast. The 2 Space Marines with bolters rapid-fired at the warrior lurking behind the sci-fi cacti, blasting a sizable chunk out of its chitinous hide. In the psychic phase, James attempted to nullify a retaliatory warp blast, but failed. Squad Barrakiel was assailed by ravening bolts of psychic energy, and the shattered corpse of one of their devastators crashed into the dirt. It was time for my Hive Tyrant to summon the swarm, and 7 termagants answered the call, scuttling on from my board edge and then dutifully guarding the smouldering corpse of the Zoanthrope. The warriors on my left flank ran towards the devastators. Technically, they should be stopping 8 inches away, but it could conceivably be a failed charge. The Zoanthrope loped onwards, putting cover between it and the Landraider. And the surviving Death Spitter warriors flanked the Hive Tyrant as they advanced on Squad Zadiel's position. My warriors in the center went into hiding, disappearing from the reticules of Smiter's gunners. The Death Spitters vomited forth their projectiles, scoring a hit, but failed to wound. The Hive Tyrant's venom cannon unleashed crystalline acid at supersonic speed onto Zadiel's position, simultaneously unleashing the salvo template upon James, not only slaying Sergeant Zadiel and a brother Marine, but also blasting the track off Iron Steed, sending it out of control on the next turn. In the psychic phase, I played Ultimate Force on my Zoanthrope's Warp Blast, and this incredibly powerful Strength 7 AP4 2-inch template vaporized the last missile launcher Marine and Sergeant Barrakiel. The survivors passed their morale check. The Hive Tyrant then cast the Horror, which the stubborn Dark Angels were having none of, thank you very much. The Tyranids were now truly on the offensive, but could James's Dark Angels regain the initiative? Iron Steed clanked harmlessly into the bunker and came to a permanent halt, whilst the remnants of Squad Barrakiel emerged fearlessly and primed crack grenades. James moved his Landraider into the center, explaining how its batteries of las cannons would single-handedly defeat the Tyranid menace as he did so. Squad Barrakiel hurled crack grenades at the warriors, but alack, failed to strike home. Well, it's been fun, brother. Smiter came to their aid. A las cannon swiveled 90 degrees and lanced one of the warriors in half, whilst the other las cannon cored one of the warriors in front of the Hive Tyrant. The twin heavy bolter fired next. Mass reactive rounds blasted the last member of the brood into chunks of quivering meat and chitinous shrapnel. The 2 Marines in the bunker rapid-fired at the Hive Tyrant, but their bolt shells detonated harmlessly off the warp field. Iron Steed's crewman fired the twin bolter, but missed. In the psychic phase, the Hive Tyrant cast the Horror once again, but could not dampen the Dark Angel's resolve, whilst the Zoanthrope's Force Blast was dampened by a Devastator's armor. In my third turn, more of the swarm arrived. 10 termagants surged onto the table, eager to hunt and slay. The warriors charged the Devastators. The Hive Tyrant on the opposite flank, unable to restrain its hatred any longer, barreled into the Rhino. The Zoanthrope prowled into a nearby crater with a good view of the center of the table. With no shooting to take care of, the warriors made short work of one of the Devastators, and although the 2nd Marine's power armor performed admirably, it was not enough to prevent him being hacked apart by a flurry of crackling bone swords. The warriors used their 2-inch follow-up move to take them into cover, away from Smiter's formidable las cannons. The Hive Tyrant ended the Rhino, causing an explosion that tore through the hull and killed the crew. In the psychic phase, I played the Horror, But again, James's stubborn Dark Angels successfully nullified the card. In James's final turn, he went all in, driving the Landraider onto the hill, revealing the skulking forms of the warrior brood behind the rocks. With a concussive bang, Smiter's boarding ramp opened, and Squad Amethyst sallied forth, ready to purge the alien. Squad Zadeel hurled crack grenades down upon the Hive Tyrant, but missed. Squad Amethyst poured Melter and Crack into the warriors, slaying one as Smiter's gunners went to work, bursting one with a deadly point-blank blast cannon shot. Then the heavy bolters painting the rocks and nearby flora with cascades of purple ichor and entrails. But the mighty war machine wasn't done yet. The second blast cannon array struck the Hive Tyrant, piercing its warp field and melting through its hardened carapace. In a millisecond, the creature's insides were vaporized, and with a cacophonous shriek, the Hive Tyrant disappeared in a shower of chitin, bone, and superheated steam. Another alien corpse for retrieval and study. In the psychic phase, James thwarted any retaliatory response by playing Energy Drain. Damn you, Space Marines! That was a brutal turn, and now the hive mind was eager for revenge. The two broods of termagants surrounded Squad Amethyst, intent on beetling them to death with their flesh borers, a curious weapon that is strength 4 but AP 0. The first brood's salvo dealt 4 wounds, but the Marines' power armor protected all but one of them from the ravenous ammunition. The second brood fired, but failed to wound any of the Marines. In the psychic phase, the Zoanthrope prepared to punish the meat things for their insolence, bringing a warp blast down upon Squad Amethyst. I needed a 2 to hit, but oh my goodness, succeeded in blasting a bush to smithereens instead. And with that, the game was over. The Tyranids scattered, leaving 2 corpses ripe for the scalpels and bone saws of the biologists. What a fun game, and well played, James. After tossing up the scores, this was a resounding victory for the Dark Angels, scoring 5 points for enemy unknown and 9 for killing my critters, giving him 14 victory points. Whilst I scored 2 points for terrorize and 5 for killing Marines, bringing my score to a meager 7 victory points. So let's reflect for a moment on the game. Firstly, I am really pleased with the custom enemy unknown mission. Any mission against Tyranids that forces players to do more than simply sit back and shoot makes for an interesting and tense game. Terrorize, on the other hand, is rough for Tyranids against valorous Space Marines, as despite losing count of the number of morale checks I forced on James, he didn't fail a single one. I had wrongly assumed that the Landraider would be ripped apart by Tyranid warriors or blown up by a warp blast at some point, but that was far from the truth. James held his Landraider back for most of the game and maintained good firing lanes throughout, dealing terrible damage to my precious swarm. My greatest error was charging the Hive Tyrant at the Rhino, which presented my prized Xenomorph to the Landraider's laser cannons. I had planned on blowing the Rhino up and using a follow-up move to hide behind the bunker, but really I should have kept him near the center to attempt to charge against the Landraider. Anyway, that was a quality way to spend a Sunday morning, and we're both eager for the next installment of the Dark Crusaders campaign. As always, a tyrannic war thank you to my Patreon community for making this video possible, and an especially warm welcome to this month's new members: Jeep, Black Thumb Miniatures, Max, Yarek, Francis H, David Barkley, and Brother Spumulus? None of this would be possible without the generosity and support of my Patreon community. Sign up for £3.50 a month, and you get access to an exclusive monthly podcast, the Minisodes Discord, and the occasional members-only video. Oh, and if you weren't already aware, I have started live streaming Chaos Gate, a turn-based XCOM-like from 1998. Before the stream, I had never actually played this game, and it is a lot of fun. So if you happen to be at a loose end on a Tuesday evening, come and watch the exploits of the Ultramarine Second Company against the hated Word Bearers. Ooh, hiss. That's everything from me. Thanks for watching till the end, and, of course, happy hobbying.